Rain pounded against the windshield as thunder rolled across the dark Texas sky. Emma Carter tightened her grip on the steering wheel while her 4-year-old son, Noah, slept peacefully in the back seat, hugging his worn teddy bear. She smiled through exhausted eyes. "Just a little farther, sweetheart," she whispered. They had spent the weekend visiting Noah's grandparents. It had been filled with laughter, homemade pie, and endless hugs. Emma couldn't have imagined that it would become the last normal day of her life. Suddenly, a blinding pair of headlights appeared around the curve. A truck swerved into her lane. Emma slammed on the brakes. The tires screamed. Metal collided with metal. Glass exploded like thousands of tiny stars. Then, silence. Emma woke in a hospital bed 3 days later. Every bone in her body ached. Machines beeped beside her. She looked around in confusion before the memory crashed into her mind. "Noah!" Her voice cracked. She tried to sit up. "My son. Where is my son?" The nurse froze. A doctor quietly entered the room. His face said everything before he spoke. "The rescue team found your vehicle, but Noah wasn't inside." Emma stared. "What do you mean he wasn't inside?" The doctor lowered his eyes. "The back door was open when emergency services arrived." Emma shook her head violently. No, that's impossible." Police searched every mile of the highway. Helicopters flew overhead. Volunteers combed forests. Dogs followed every scent they could find. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. No footprints, no clothing, no teddy bear, nothing. News stations across America shared Noah's smiling face. Millions prayed. Tips poured in. Every lead ended in heartbreak. Eventually, the headlines disappeared. The volunteers went home. The world moved on. But Emma never did. For 20 years, she left the porch light on every single night. Neighbors told her the old metal box trembled in Daniel's hands. Dust floated through the narrow beam of light coming from the attic window. Outside, rain tapped softly against the roof, the same kind of rain that had haunted his dreams for as long as he could remember. He carefully unfolded the first newspaper clipping. Across the top, in faded black letters, was a headline that stole the air from his lungs. 4-year-old boy vanishes after highway crash. Beneath the headline was a photograph. A little boy with curly brown hair, bright blue eyes, and a wide, innocent smile hugged a stuffed teddy bear with one missing eye. Daniel looked at the old teddy bear lying beside him. His hands began to shake. "No." He whispered the word, but his voice sounded hollow. "It can't be." He picked up another clipping. Authorities continue searching for Noah Carter, missing for 10 days after a devastating car accident. Police have received hundreds of tips but no confirmed sightings. Another article. Search enters its 6th month. Family refuses to give up hope. Another. Mother keeps porch light on every night for missing son. Daniel's heartbeat thundered inside his chest. He had never heard the name Noah Carter before, yet every photograph felt strangely familiar. It was as though he were looking at forgotten pieces of his own childhood. His adoptive mother, Linda, called from downstairs. "Daniel, dinner's ready." He quickly shoved the papers back into the box. "Coming." At the table, silence filled the room. Since his adoptive father had died 2 weeks earlier, the house felt emptier than ever. Linda barely touched her food. Daniel couldn't stop staring at her. Finally, he asked the question that had haunted him for years. "Mom, where was I born?" Her fork froze. "You've asked that before." "I'm asking again. You were born in another state." "Which state?" "I don't remember." Daniel frowned. "How can you not remember?" She stood abruptly. "I'm tired." Before she could leave, Daniel placed the newspaper clipping on the table. Her face turned pale. The color drained from her cheeks. She looked as if she had seen a ghost. "Where did you get that?" "The attic." Her breathing became uneven. Daniel slowly placed the old teddy bear beside the newspaper. "I found this too." Linda backed away until she hit the kitchen wall. Tears welled in her eyes. "Daniel, tell me the truth." Silence. "Tell me." She covered her mouth with trembling hands. "I wanted to." Her voice broke. "I wanted to tell you so many times." Daniel's world seemed to stop spinning. "What aren't you telling me?" She sank into a chair, sobbing. "Your father found you." Daniel stared. "What do you mean, found me?" "He said he discovered you wandering alone near a highway after a terrible storm." Daniel's breathing became shallow. "He told me your family must have abandoned you." "And you believed him?" "I wanted a child more than anything." Her tears fell freely now. "I couldn't have children." "So you just kept me?" She nodded weakly. "He convinced me no one would ever come looking." Daniel pushed his chair back so hard it crashed against the porch light had burned every night for 20 years. Summer heat, winter snow, thunderstorms, power outages. Nothing stopped Emma Carter from turning it on. People in the small Texas town had grown used to it. Children who hadn't even been born when Noah disappeared now knew the story of the lonely house with the glowing light. Some called it heartbreaking. Others called it foolish. Emma called it hope. Every Saturday morning, Emma visited the local park where Noah had loved to play. She always sat on the same weathered bench. She watched children laugh, race across the grass, and climb the swings. Sometimes their laughter made her smile. Sometimes it shattered her heart. She imagined Noah as a grown man. Was he tall? Did he still love chocolate ice cream? Did he remember her at all? Or had the world erased every memory of the woman who had once carried him in her arms? She whispered the same prayer she had spoken for 2 decades. Please, God, if my son is alive, let him know he was never abandoned. Let him know I never stopped loving him. Hundreds of miles away, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about the newspaper articles. The name Noah Carter echoed through his mind. He booked an appointment with a private DNA testing laboratory. The receptionist smiled politely. Family history? Daniel hesitated. I'm trying to find out who I really am. The receptionist's smile faded into sympathy. We'll do everything we can. A small sample of saliva, a few signatures. Then came the hardest part. Waiting. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Daniel left the building feeling as though his future depended on a tiny plastic tube. That evening, Linda knocked softly on his apartment door. I brought dinner. Daniel let her in. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. Finally, Linda broke the silence. I don't expect you to forgive me. Daniel stared at the floor. I loved you every single day. I know. I changed your diapers. I know. I stayed awake when you had a fever. I know. Tears rolled down her face. But none of that changes what happened. Daniel looked at her. For 20 years, another mother has been crying because of one decision. Linda closed her eyes. I live with that every day. He wanted to hate her. Part of him did, but another part remembered the woman who had packed his school lunches, cheered at his football games, and held him whenever life became difficult. Love and betrayal had become tangled together, and neither one was easy to separate. 3 days later, Daniel received an anonymous package. There was no return address. Inside was an old photograph. A little boy stood beside a smiling young woman at a county fair. The boy held a giant stuffed dinosaur. Written on the back were 5 simple words. Our first fair together. Mom. Daniel's hands trembled. Another memory flashed. Bright carnival lights. The smell of popcorn. Someone lifting him onto their shoulders. Warm laughter. Then darkness. The memory disappeared before he could hold on to it. His head pounded. He dropped to his knees. Who am I? His voice echoed through the empty apartment. Across Texas, Emma received a phone call from Detective Michael Harris. He had been one of the young officers who worked Noah's case 20 years earlier. Now his hair had turned gray. His voice sounded older, too. Emma, there's something you should know. Her heart skipped. What is it? We received another tip. She had heard those words hundreds of times before. Every tip ended the same way. Disappointment. What kind of tip? A man cleaning an old storage room found newspaper clippings about Noah. Emma's breathing stopped. Where? We're still investigating. Is there any sign that Noah could be alive? The detective hesitated. I don't want to give you false hope. Emma smiled sadly. Michael, hope is all I've ever had. After hanging up, she walked into Noah's untouched bedroom. She sat on the edge of the small bed. Running her fingers across the faded dinosaur blanket, she whispered, I don't know where you are, sweetheart, but something tells me you're closer than you've ever been. 1 week later, Daniel's phone rang. Unknown number. This is Heritage DNA Services. His heartbeat quickened. We've completed your analysis. Daniel couldn't breathe. Can you tell me now? I'm afraid the results are too significant to discuss over the phone. We'd like you to come into our office. When? The sooner, the better. Daniel grabbed his car keys without another word. As he drove through the rain, his mind raced. Every mile brought him closer to the truth. He didn't know whether he was about to lose his identity or finally find it. Miles away, Emma stood on her porch as the evening sky darkened. As always, she reached for the switch. The porch light flickered to life. Its warm glow spilled across the empty driveway. For 20 years, it had been a symbol of faith. Tonight, for the first time in a very long time, it felt like a beacon guiding someone home.